Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Best IT Solution. And today we are going to discuss a most important topic of Spring Framework, that is Java Bean. So what is a Java Bean and what is the main use of Java Bean in our project? Okay, so we'll discuss. And what are the different scopes of Java Bean found in Spring project? Okay, so all these things we will discuss one by one. So first thing is, what is a Java Bean or what is a Spring Bean? So Java Bean is a objects which are created inside Spring container is called as Spring Bean. Okay. So the objects which are created inside a Spring container is called as Spring Bean. So Java Bean, it is also an object, same as Java object, but difference is in a normal object we are creating by using a new keyword. Suppose there is a class mobile, so then we can create the object as mobile obj equal to new mobile. That means we are creating the object ourselves, so it is a simple object. But bean is the objects which are created by the Spring framework inside the IOC container. So the IOC container is responsible for creating the object. So the objects which are created by the Spring framework, that is called as Java bean. So it is not restricted or bounded by any the object related configurations or conventions. It not follow any restrictions of objects. So it is a Java bean. So Java beans are classes that encapsulate many objects into a single object. Okay. So Java beans are classes that encapsulate many objects into a single object. Okay. So this is called a bean. So the features of beans. So what are the features of Java bean we can found? The main features of Java beans are there. Beans are serializable. Okay, so Java beans are serializable. That means we can serialize that object. And serialize means when we serializing the object, so we can pass that object over the network to another from one location to another location. So this is a serializing technique. We can the serializable mechanism through which we can also create the object. So Java beans are serializable. It should have a zero argument constructor. Okay, so beans have zero argument constructor, and it allow access to properties using getter and setter method. Okay, so the Java beans are allow access to properties. Okay, so the bean properties, since the object has some properties or fields, so it allows access to these properties or fields or attributes using getter and setter methods. Okay, so by using the getter and setter methods, we can access the fields or properties of the that bean classes. So it allows access to properties using getter and setter methods. It is a reusable software component written in Java that can be manipulated visually in an application builder tool. Okay, so Java beans are reusable software component written in Java that can be manipulated visually in an application builder tool. Okay, so it is a reusable software component that can be written in Java and can be manipulated visually in an application builder tool. Okay, and the what are the scope of beans? So there are different scopes of beans. Okay, so there are five different scope of beans. So two different scope to create a spring bean. So on the creation purpose, so there are two different scope. That is, first one is singleton scope and another is prototype scope. Okay, so we'll discuss one by one what is singleton scope and what is prototype scopes. Okay, and other scopes are like request scope, session scope, and global session scope. Okay, so total there are five scopes of a Java bean, that is singleton scope, prototype scope, and request scope, session scope, and global session scope. Okay, so in this session we will discuss in details singleton or prototype, because these two scopes are scopes are on basis on the creation of the bean. During the creation of the bean, we can mention these scopes. Others are like request scope. So request scope is the scope, that means this in request scope the beans validity until this request. Once the request has ended or request has completed, then the bean scope has also end. And session scope is the bean scope is till the session is validated. Once the session is invalidated, then that bean scope is also invalidate on application context. And global session scope also, it is global. It validates or it exists these beans till the program execution or till throughout the application context. Okay, so these are the different scopes. So what is singleton scope? So by default, Spring Framework uses a singleton design pattern. Okay. So by default, the beans are created in a IOC container. So in the IOC container, beans are created. So by default, it uses the singleton scope or singleton design pattern. So singleton design pattern. What is the singleton scope? It gives the pre-hand. Singleton design pattern means it gives the object pre-hand. We don't have to wait for creation of the object. Okay, so we did not wait for the creation of the object. It gives the as soon as we run our program or run our program, the objects are created. Okay, in pre-hand. When we will start our application, it will give us the object. Okay, so when we start our application, soon it will give us the object. So it is singleton object or singleton scope object. And what are the features of singleton object? Like in singleton design pattern, we will get only one instance. Okay, so at a particular time, we will get only one instance in singleton, and by default, the scope is singleton only. So in singleton design pattern, we will get only one instance or only one object or one bean. Only one object we will get in singleton design pattern. But in prototype design pattern, it will not create any instance by default for us. Okay, so different differences in prototype A, it will not create any instance or any object by default for us. Okay, when we run the application, it will not create any object. When we call the getBean method, so there is a method of getBean in application context. There is a method of getBean. So when we call the getBean method with the help of this application context object, that is context.getBean, at that time only the object will be created. Okay, so after the program runs successfully, when we call that getBean method, at that time only that object will be created. In this prototype, we prototype scope method, we can get more than one object. Okay, so any number of object we can get. Every time when we call the getBean method, it will create an object. Okay, so every time when we call the getBean method, it will create an object. So if we call the getBean method 5 times in our program, that means 5 object we can get. Okay, but in prototype pattern, if we will not call the getBean, object will not create, like in singleton pattern. Okay, so in prototype, object will not create if we not call the getBean method. Object will not create like in singleton pattern. Okay, so the main difference between singleton and prototype is in singleton design pattern, only one object we can get. In prototype, any number of object we can get. In singleton design pattern, during the execution of the program, by default one object we can object are created. So in pre-hand, object are created, but in prototype, objects are created when we call the getBean method. If we not call the getBean method, there will no object will be created, and any number of object can be created in prototype scope. So this is the difference between a singleton and prototype. Okay, so we can give an example for that for understanding the concept in clearly. We can take an example and discuss these things in detail. Okay, so suppose there are two classes, one is user and mobile. Okay, so how we can use the singleton prototype methods? So there are two classes, user class and mobile class. So here user class depend on mobile class. Suppose the user class needs an object of mobile class for executing any methods of the mobile class. Hence, we need to connect these two objects, the user class object and mobile class object. We need to connect between these two objects. Okay. So here you can see in diagram, in user class the objects are created in user, and in mobile class the objects are created in mobile. So this is the Spring IOC container. So this box is the Spring IOC container, and inside the Spring IOC container, user class object has created the name of user, and mobile class object has created name of mobile. Okay. So we can describe these things. So for connect these two objects, we should use @auto add before declaring mobile object in user class and @component in mobile class. Okay, so we need to write two things. if we are connecting, if we want to connect this to object, so since we are injecting the mobile class object inside the user class, so in mobile class we need to write the annotation at the rate component above the mobile class. So before writing the mobile class, we need to write the annotation at the rate component. So at the rate component means now in the mobile class objects will created inside the IOC container. So Spring, you will know that the mobile class is a component of the Spring framework. So it will goes under the Spring radar and it will create the object of the mobile class. And also we need to auto add the mobile class mobile object inside the user class. So when we are creating the user class, we need to inject the object of the mobile class. So when we are declaring the object of mobile class, we need not to create object ourselves. We if we will write the injecting the object by giving the auto add annotation when we creating the mobile class object. So here you can see the code snippet. Okay, so here this is the class user and I am auto adding the private and private mobile. Okay, so this is the private mobile, that means the mobile is the class and with this mobile is the object. So I am injecting this object by the annotation at the rate auto add. Now this object has injected to this user class and we can access any methods of this mobile class with the help of this object. And in mobile class, this is a mobile class, we can I have written the annotation at the rate component. That means now this mobile has a component of the Spring framework and object is created inside IOC container, then only that object is going to injected inside that user class. Okay. So descriptions of then bean creation. So how that beans are created? Okay. So when we will write auto add, the user object will search for mobile object in Spring container. Okay. So when the annotation we have written at the rate auto add, that means the user we have written the annotation auto add inside the user class. Now the user object will search for mobile object in Spring container. So user object now search in IOC container that if there any object present of mobile class, so it will search by type. So by default the user object search the mobile object by default it is searched by type. The user object type connect with mobile object type. Okay, so by default it is searched by its type, object type. The user object type search the mobile object type. We can also search by its name. For this we need to use one more annotation for this. Okay, so by default the object user object search the mobile object by its type only. Okay, and by default the objects are created by type only. Since if there are objects like mobile, so mobile type objects are created inside that IOC container. So we can also search by its name. For this we need to use one more annotation like @qualifier. So if we will write @qualifier annotation in a mobile class, now the user class search mobile class by name. Okay, so we can write @qualifier and we can mention the object name inside in the user class only. Okay, and the aim of mobile should be in small letter, that is mobile. So the class name is capital MOBILE and the object will be created by name like MOBILE by default. Okay, so the qualifier should be written in user class. So we can also change the name. By default it is same as class name but first letter in small. So if we want to search by name, so by default it is the same as class name but the first letter is small. Okay, so if the class name is mobile, name is capital, but the object by default created mobile, same name as class name but the first letter is small. That is in mobile object the M is small letter. That is for mobile object the object name is mobile, small MOBILE. If we want to change the name, we can write @component. Suppose we want to give the name as object name MOB1, then we can write @component MOB1 in mobile class, and in user class we need to write inside that qualifier we need to pass the parameter that same as MOB1. Now it search for MOB1 object. Okay, so when mentioned in user class the @qualifier and MOB1, now it's searching MOB1 in the IOC container, and before that we need to write @component MOB1. Now the MOV1 object is created of a mobile object in IOC container. Okay, so code can be written as in qualifier and component like at the rate qualifier MOV1 class user. In user class we need to write this code at the rate above user class at the rate qualifier MOV1. Now it's searching for that MOV1 in the container IOC container, and in the mobile class we need to write at the rate component and MOV1. That means mobile class object created in IOC container in the name of MOV1 only. Okay. So note, so by default auto add search by type and qualifier search by name. Okay, so by default the auto, if we mention only the auto add, so by default it is search by type only. But if we mention the qualifier annotation, then by default it is search by name. But the same as class, the object name is same as class name, but the difference is the first letter is in a small letter. Okay. So these are the difference between singleton and prototype scope. Okay, so the end, and thank you guys. So this is all about the Spring Bean or Java Bean and its different scope of the bean. Okay, thank you. And if you got some knowledge from this video, please like, share the video and subscribe the channel, by which I can make more and more video in this Spring topic. Okay, so thank you.